The work explores potential privacy leakage issues posed by Generalist web agent. The author first developed realistic threat models and then introduced a novel attack approach, dubbed EIA. They applied it to CACT, which is a state-of-the-art web agent framework. The experiment tests with 3 different language multimodal model backbones, GPT-4v, which is closed-sourced, and 2 open-source models, L-Lava Mistra 7b and L-Lava Queen 72b. All experiments are conducted using A16 GPUs with 48 GB of memory. For evaluation data, they collect from Mind2Web, a widely used dataset for developing and evaluating web agents. This dataset spans 137 real websites and includes 2,350 human-crafted tasks. They select tasks that involve personally identifiable information, or PII. Specifically, they use both GPT-4 and GPT-4o to determine whether PII is involved in each action step and to identify the PII category. They then manually verify each action step and re-annotate the PII categories as needed. After filtering out low-quality data, they finalize a set of 177 action steps or instances. These instances encompass various categories of PII and diverse task types, providing a comprehensive dataset for studying privacy attacks. For evaluation metrics, they adopt step success rate, or SR, as defined in Mind2Web. An action step is considered successful if both the selected element and the predicted operation are correct in the absence of attacks. To quantify attack performance, they measure the attack success rate, or ASR, of the current step. An attack is deemed successful when the injected element is selected and the typed values have a string level similarity score greater than 0.995 compared to the ground truth values. The attack performance using different injection strategies in different positions is shown in the table. Note that different backbone LNMs varies substantially in their general capability without attack, as demonstrated by the differences in step SR. However, regardless of whether the step SR is low or high, EIA still remains relatively effective across these LNMs. Notably, attacks against GPT-4v can achieve up to 70% ASR. This suggests that while more performant models can effectively complete tasks, they are also more vulnerable to EIA, potentially leading to the leakage of user PII. Moreover, due to the dynamic and complex nature of web structure, various positions are available for injection. Generally, the results show that injections placed near the target element achieve higher ASR compared to those higher or lower positions. In particular, injections just above the target element, position P+1, exhibit the highest ASR on average compared to those placed below. MI mirror injection at P+1 achieves the highest ASR of 70% when using GPT-4v among all settings. The authors believe that this is partly because the web agent perceives the maliciously injected element at P+1 before the target element, making it more likely to select the injected element due to the inherent positional bias. Regarding different injection strategies, MI achieves the highest ASR, likely because it mirrors the original HTML styles and name conventions. This makes the web agent more prone to select the injected element through MI, which blends well with the rest of the web page compared to those by FI that appear somewhat disjoint from the overall web page. However, MI exhibit lower average ASR and higher variance, which may indicate that FI is more consistent across different injection positions. The authors now study another adversarial target, leaking the full user request. Despite adjusting the prompt injection accordingly, they find that EIA fails to leak the full request, yielding an ASR of 0. Upon examination, the reason is that full request depends on the action generation stage, which precedes action grounding. Since action generation relies solely on the screenshot, which appears benign due to opacity equals 0, the model continues to produce normal textual descriptions where the value indicates that the value to be filled should be the PII rather than the full request. In response to this limitation, the authors propose relaxing the opacity constraint by setting alpha to a low non-zero value to affect the action generation stage, termed as relaxed EIA. Specifically, they adopt the strategy EFI with tags for injecting the prompt injection to balance between the being perceivable to web agent and being inconspicuous to easy human detection. They empirically set alpha to 0.2. The ASR for GPT-4v is no longer 0, indicating that the action generation process has been compromised to leak the full request. However, the ASR for the other two LMMs remains at 0, which can be attributed to GPT-4v's superior optical character recognition (OCR) and instruction following capabilities compared to others. Overall, injection across positions P plus 3 to P minus 3 shows consistently effective attack performance. With less sensitivity to different positions, particularly position P minus 3, emerges as the most vulnerable one, yielding the highest ASR of 16% for full request leakage. In this section, the author evaluates if EIA and relaxed EIA will be detected by a traditional web security tool and by assessing the agent functional integrity. They focus on using GPT-4v in this section. They use VirusTotal, a classical web malware detection tool, to identify suspicious and malicious components within web pages after EIA injection. However, they find that none of these web pages were flagged as malicious or suspicious by VirusTotal. Such failure of detection stems from the unique nature of the malicious content they introduced. Unlike previous web threats typically associated with malicious executable code, their approach involves inserting seamlessly innocuous natural language into HTML content, which will be overlooked by those traditional web security tools. Agent function integrity refers to the agent's ability to complete tasks as intended, and maintaining this integrity is essential for the attack to be less likely detected by the user. Any disruption in normal operation could alert, could alert user to potential issues, but possibly leading them to blacklist the site. To assess this aspect, they trace whether the agent can continue performing the user task normally after leaking the user's private information, that is, the success rate of the action following the successful attack, denoted as ASRPT. Partic- Particularly, once the action in the next step either matches the action the agent would have taken without the attack will correspond to one of the remaining gold actions after the attack step, it counts as a success. According to the results, ASRPT is very close to ASR in both EIA and relaxed EIA, indicating that their attacks barely affect subsequent actions of the web agent, but partly due to the auto-submission mechanism they design. This finding suggests that malicious websites employing these attacks methods can steal users' private information without noticeably affecting the agent's functional integrity or user interaction experience. The authors assess if the risk posed by EIA can be easily mitigated by defensive system prompt. Particularly in the prompt, they warn the web agent about potential prompt injection to avoid any element or actions that are not typically found on website. Nevertheless, they find that this approach does not effectively counter the attack, as the ASR remain nearly identical to those with the default system prompt for both EIA and relaxed EIA. They hypothesize that this ineffectiveness stems from two factors. First, the prompt injection they design appears as a benign guidance on the web page without explicitly conveying harmful information. Second, the model lacks a clear understanding of what the normal website should and should not contain. Furthermore, the authors emphasize that simple defensive prompts are insufficient to mitigate EIA attacks. The work further discusses the trade-off between autonomy and security, highlighting the challenge of incorporating different levels of human supervision in web agents applications. Web agents can be applied in various scenarios with different levels of human supervision. Such varying degrees of oversight present a trade-off between autonomy and security. In scenarios with high demand for autonomy, web page are often not presented directly to the user, leaving the web agent to operate with minimal supervision. This allows attackers to design more explicit attacks without concerns on visual alteration, making the agent highly vulnerable. On the other hand, when human actively monitors the accessed website, it becomes easier for them to spot abnormal visual changes, such as those caused by relaxed EIA or the strange spaces occupied by injected element when not well adapted. However, sustained visual attention inevitably introduces extra burdens to the users. A balanced approach is to adjust the level of supervision based on task types. For tasks involving PII, close supervision over the web agent is essential to ensure safety, including requiring permission or verification before entering sensitive information. In contrast, tasks focused on information seeking typically benefit from higher autonomy to reduce user burden. However,